Zimbabwe these days is off the world tourist map, but for the not so faint-hearted, there are parts that are pretty close to paradise. Take Victoria Falls. The local Batonka people call it Musi Oitanya, the smoke that thunders, after the great cloud that boils up to the thunder of thousands of tons of water, and occasionally an elephant plunging into the Zambezi Valley below. It's one stop on a month-long round trip of 4,000 kilometres from Johannesburg through the Okavango Delta, along the Zambezi and back via Zambia and Zimbabwe. The Zambezi has been in flood or close to it for months, yet southern Africa is in severe drought and the people are struggling. Without irrigation, the staple crops of maize, known as mealies, have failed. The people depend on direct rainfall, but it's all been further north. The Zambezi eventually finds its way to the sea through Mozambique, but there's another huge river, the Kavango, that also depends on rainfall in Angola. It never gets near the sea and forms a huge inland delta in Botswana.
Kavango means we people who are living very close to this river, and they call us Kavango people.
By African standards, the Kavango people do quite well. There are fish to be caught, reeds from which to make their houses, and water for their animals. But the river, now a kilometre or so wide, goes by on a journey to nowhere. It spreads out into channels, forming islands, and then disappears in the harshness of the Kalahari desert. What a waste, you might think, but that's the fate of this amazing river after it fans out to form the Okavango Delta, one of the richest wildlife habitats in all of Africa.
This year we received the rain very, very light, but normally it starts in December. As the rain is raining too much in Angola, we have flood here in the Okavango River.
Climate change aside, no one's complaining about the flood. Least of all this bunch of grey nomads who've timed their visit because of the water, to see the wealth of animal life it supports.
If there's no rainfall in Angola, here, all the hippos, the crocs, especially the hippos, they suffer a lot.
And so to explore by motorbike. Donkeys don't have enough horsepower. Dugout canoes and four-wheel drives. And though Robert Mugabe may have reduced Zimbabwe to just a shadow of its former self, the old dogs will be among friends. We will see and be seen, possibly as food. 4 riders and 1 pillion, all of them old enough to know better, on a trip some may envy. Sometimes the roads are quite good, sometimes not roads at all, but you just have to plough on. And when the trailer on the backup vehicle loses a wheel on day 1, it's already too late to pull out. We're committed, or some would say, should be. But it's the water that's brought us here. The bikes are merely transport, and sometimes 2 wheels just won't do.
If you can all try and get right to the back, all on this side.
The channels are always changing. Islands form, then get linked up for a time, and when the floods come, here at Mboma, even an experienced guide can get out of his depth.
You don't think we could push? You don't think No, really, we can't go forward. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do is we're going to jack it up and then we're going to stick some logs under the...
Logs? Not a problem. Successive floods have drowned any trees that weren't quick enough to pull up stumps and get away. But you never know what else is lurking in the grass. It doesn't sound far away. So just get the vehicle out and let's get back on board.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you've been fighting.
See what was just meters away? Not just one old scar-faced lion, but his entire harem. All of them, fortunately, well fed. With all that grass and all this water, meals come to them. Zebra, a favourite dish and always on the menu. But note the tail, it's taken a serious swipe. Zebra survival depends on staying alert and staying together, confusing predators with a blur of black and white. Impala are just about every carnivore's favourite. No wonder they're always twitchy. Giraffe rely on camouflage. They could be right there, silently removing the leaves from the thorny acacias, and you wouldn't know it. Kudu also blend in, swallowed up by the bush, to avoid being swallowed up by the big cats. As the light begins to fade, guinea fowl take roost in an acacia, staying well above ground level, with good reason. If you don't fancy spending all night in a tree, there's some security in a wall of canvas. Without the drainage from the Angolan rains, there would be no Okavango Delta. There would be no river, no silly old goat in a dugout canoe, known here as a makoro. No brushing through the reeds and grasses, the papyrus, the figs. The trouble is, down here at water level, that's about all you can see. If elephant can be quietly passing by, what else might you be missing? It's too shallow for hippos, he says. Too clear for crocs, he hopes.
By golly, that's cold.
Going north up the delta, we will have to cross the flood to get to Nguma Island. Once more, we need more than 2 wheels. The flood has spread across flat land. The water is seldom deep, but covers a vast area. For the moment, termite mounds become islands. For the village cattle, it's a one-stop shop for eating and drinking. It's all fresh and wonderful, part of the process of renewal of the food chain, but obviously it's happened many times before. And in a place where land transport is pretty thin on the ground, there's a practical benefit to most village people.
They are very happy because it will be very easy for them to travel around the delta by using mkoro instead of walk.
The problem with travelling by makoro is what you might bump into.
Everywhere by the bank of the river, there's a main floodplain, which means that the crocs, they also like to follow where the water flows into the floodplain.
These freshwater crocodiles are not as benign as their Australian cousins. They're more like the man-eating salties. And if you know your trivia, the crocodile is not the most dangerous animal in Africa. Nor is this. Nor this. Nor even this. Though none of them likes to lose an argument. The animal that has the greatest fatal strike rate against people in Africa is the one with the wet bovine innocence and the charming crooked smile. If you can see them, fine. If they disappear, so should you. And if you can't see them, remember that hippos could be anywhere. They make these channels and keep them open. The spread of water depends on them. We depend on getting back to dry roads and onto 2 wheels. Everything is going swimmingly, a bit too swimmingly. Can you imagine anyone in Africa going off in a 2-ton truck with no chain or rope, no winch, no spade, no high lift jack, just a little hydraulic thing that would struggle to lift an old Mini? We have no choice but to jump ship. feeling just a little bit guilty, but knowing the flood water will go down one day. We're hitting the road again, wondering what one village elder is wondering. In Namibia, we ride straight through the Caprivi Game Park, trying to keep up with the elephants. Trying to keep out of the way of trucks. Trying to find the road that the flood had taken away. In Zimbabwe, the loggers haven't completely had their way. The teak and mahogany forests are still here, and we will find that animals too have survived the regime and the poachers. Some of it might still be locked in empire, never mind Ian Smith and Mugabe. We might be the only guest at the Hwange Safari Lodge, but we can still eyeball elephant and buffalo by the 100, though one less buffalo and a much better fed lion than yesterday. But it's the Okavango Delta that leaves the greatest impression, at the end of the great river that gives life over such a vast area. These red lechwe thrive when the water is here, yet disappear like the water when it reaches the makarikari pans of the Kalahari and sinks in to recharge some aquifer or evaporates to make rain somewhere else. It may seem a waste, but you're witnessing one of the mysteries, the enigmas of nature.